You're listening to Chalkhill Community Radio, keeping the community connected.
So, last week, for those of you that listened, you heard me say that I was excited, as I do every week. Last week I was excited about a book launch that I was about to be a part of. I'd been made an author by some amazing young men who now, of course, are my favourite young people. As always, I collect young people, bring them into the studio, support them. So I've adopted both of them. I spoke to one of their mothers and I told her how proud I was of them. So in the studio today, although they're not my womb children, I have some young people who I am proud to be an elder to. So, without further ado, I would now like to say a very big good morning and a warm welcome, and I'd like you to join me in welcoming to the studio Freedom and Balance. So, Freedom and Balance, good morning.
Thank you for having us.
So we have Andre and we also have Nabil. Alongside Andre and Nabil, we have an addition who is Naomi. You'll be hearing from Naomi a bit later. She didn't bargain for that, but I always do that to Naomi because I think it works best. An addition to the Freedom and Balance crew. So I want to start with Andre. Andre, you are affectionately known as the headmaster.
Yeah, I'm the headmaster of my own art college.
Nice, I like that. So you're the headmaster of your own art college. So can you tell the listeners now a bit about Freedom and Balance, your art college? Tell us some more about that.
So the Freedom and Balance is an art college for the artists and everyone. My background is living in Northwest London, like yourself. I don't have necessarily great access to education. But
tell me a bit more what you mean by that. You don't have great access to.
I mean, our how we were taught was mostly memorize as much as you can, and then go into a room and then recite what you've heard for the past couple of years. If you're not good at memorizing, then you're basically not smart. And then there's so many kids who are actually brilliant, but then they are then labeled as disruptive or dumb. I mean, I went through a lot of my time in secondary school thinking that I'm not a smart guy. And it's not necessarily because I wasn't smart, it's because the way I was taught made me think that there was the only way in order to educate yourself is to memorize information. Where like after school and after college, I didn't go to university, I started to look into education because that's something that I actually cared about and I've always cared about. And when you actually look at the root word, do you know what the root word for education means?
No, why don't you share it with the listeners?
The root word means to rise up. So the idea is that education is almost like a metaphor for farming. And the idea is that you have a seed inside of you, and if someone just asks the right questions, then the fruit will grow. And that is not reflective of my education experience. So when I said I don't have a great education background, that's what I'm speaking about. I wasn't asked any questions that would allow me to explore something. It's more, I'm going to ask you a question. If you don't have the one right answer, you failed. So I wanted to kind of create an environment whereby we're just exploring questions, and it's less about if it's the right answer or not, it's how we get to the answer. So we have we have two rules in the college. First one is, if it's not hard work, it's not hard work, which basically means that everything stems from your heart, kind of going back to that whole education thing. And then the second one is the process is the prize, which basically means once we get to the end of it, it's not really about the end of it, it's about what you've learnt on your journey there. So, for example, this curriculum here, which is Authors of the Estate, the idea of it is how do we turn council houses into publishing houses? That's the question that we're exploring. How we get to the answer is way more important than what the answer is. And me, Nabil, Naomi is as much students in the curriculum as anyone else that's part of it. So really, it's an opportunity for us to create a learning environment that doesn't require you to like revise all day and night to memorize what we've said in order to get, I don't know, an A star or a first or whatever criteria we give people.
Andre, I cannot tell you how enlightening that information is to so many, even those who have already gone through the education system. It's going to change lives of those who are currently going through the education, especially young people who experience a different way of learning from the way in which they're taught, which is simply what you've just said. There's a whole one size fit all. You've made it plain that the one size does not fit all. So tell me how you became the headmaster.
I just said it. I call myself headmaster, and there I am. I think I mean, I've been spending quite a lot of years thinking about, if I was to run a school, what would it be like? And that involved me. I spent a lot of time thinking about creativity in and of itself. I think creativity is your actual intelligence. So it's how you deal with a scenario or a question or whatever. So I've been really focused on how does creativity work, and how does creativity work for individuals. And I've been doing that for myself. And then eventually I was like, oh wait, you can make this a thing where people are doing this in groups. So then that's where me calling Freedom and Balance an art college came about. And then I think language is important. So I can either walk around and say, oh, like I run an art collective experiment called Freedom and Balance, or I could say an art college. Everyone knows what a college is. And then also as well, I could call myself a founder of it. But when you call yourself a headmaster, then you know my position. You know what I'm trying to achieve. I'm not just trying to run a cool company.
I absolutely love it, and I wanted the listeners to be clear about why you are the headmaster. I've been one of your students, and you are absolutely the headmaster.
Thank you.
The way in which you manage the organisation, you are no one else other than the headmaster. So tell us about your first project that you did with the college. If there was a first project, you would say, what was that?
Well, it's technically this is the first official project. But the very first thing I did that made me start thinking about a college is that I had a group of people that was in a group. It was a few friends, Zainab, Abby, Abdu, Akwazi, and we basically said, all right, I wanted to create this not WhatsApp group, like an Instagram group called Art Attack. And the idea was that we was going to, every single day, someone in the group gives a word. Like, so the word is happiness or electricity or whatever, just a word. And then you have basically 12 hours to creatively respond to that word. So wherever you respond in a poem, or you respond in video, or you respond in an illustration, you have to creatively respond. And then we look at it, we kind of give our small critiques, and then that was it. After doing that for a week, I realized that was the basis of creating a college, which is you have a word, which is the brief. You have a deadline, which is those 12 hours that you need to do within a day. You've given someone enough freedom to express themselves creatively within those 12 hours. And also as well, you have a community that's able to look at it and like critique it in a way that's respectful and a way that actually like builds people up. So that was the first college environment that I created under Freedom and Balance in an Instagram group. So then I knew that no matter how small or how big the space is, I now know how to run an educational program. So then the official one is the one that we're working on, Authors of the Estate, which is, all right, cool, now that those mechanics can work in Instagram, can you scale it to an entire estate, which we did in Chalkhill.
Okay, so we are going to talk some more specifically about the project, but you're here with Nabil. So I want Nabil now to share with us how you and Andre became connected and what's your involvement in this project.
So I happened to stumble on a video on SBTV 4 years ago, where I saw Nathaniel Telemack, one of the authors from Authors of the Estate, written by St. Raphael's Estate. It was a promo video, and he had essentially slotted copies of the book into every single home in St. Raphael's Estate. After having that sit in my mind for a long time, I managed to purchase the book, and I read through it in May of 2015. And I can say hands down that I thought it was the most important piece of literature in that year that was released. I then just sat on it and I waited, and I was waiting to see what would follow through, what would come next. And I waited and I waited and I waited, and nothing came of it.
Did you ever think of contacting anyone to find out, or
I did.
You did?
But I was also nervous. You know, I'm a complete stranger. So I've never met or even seen Andre in person. I'd never met or seen Jay Sniper or Nathaniel Telemac or Praise UK or any of the authors listed. And to me, they were almost like urban myths or celebrities in my head. So December 2018, I started my new job, and I grew close to your niece, who's one of my best friends, Naomi Wharton. And just in passing, I mentioned the book. We were talking about life, and I said how the St. Raphael's book really changed my life, and it changed my perspective on how I saw things within Northwest London.
So this book really had a massive impact on you.
It had a profound effect on me. You know, being from the Chalkhill estate, I was very selective of where I went in the borough, very selective of who I spoke to, and it just so happened I didn't really have that rapport with anyone from St. Raphael's. If you read the book, there's a conversation between different generations of the estate, and we talk about the breakdown in communications between different communities within Northwest London. And I feel like my generation is a product of that. So it was just a blessing that Naomi just straight away, as soon as I mentioned it, I went to school with Andre. My mind was blown. I was like, okay.
Okay, so let's switch to Naomi. Let's find out the what next. I'm going to come back to you, Nabil, because I know that there's some more to that story. So, Naomi, Nabil met you and had a conversation with you about this book that was so inspiring. It had a major impact. And you then said...
I said that I know Andre. We went to school together. So I've known him for 15 years. Met in year 7. And I feel like creativity has always connected us together. We were in the same art class. But regardless of that, whether it was in school, outside of school, we always had that connection. And through growing older throughout school, and when we left, because I stayed in sixth form, but he went on to do other things, creativity always brought us back together. And that's been a beautiful thing within our friendship. And I'm glad that it still remains. And when I met Nabil and he mentioned the book, I was like, okay, let's set up a meeting, let's make it happen. And yeah, I made them connect together.
Did you feel like there were some similarities between Nabil and Andre that made you think, I can see how this can work?
Yes, I did. Just the way that Nabil was speaking, and the fact that he was speaking on such a level for a 23-year-old at the time, now 24, it just blew my mind. Like, you're such a young man and you're so ahead of your years, and Andre is the exact same way. Regardless of what he puts his mind to, he will execute it. He is a man of his word, and I knew something would happen out of the book.
You're absolutely right in terms of being ahead of their years, because I remember being contacted by at least 3 people. I think, Naomi, you were one of them, and a couple of other people rang and said, Blaze, there's a group of young men and they need your help, you know, can you contact them? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then someone came back to me, have you contacted them? I was like, right, I'm going to do it today. And so I made contact. I think I made contact with Nabil, actually. I made contact with Nabil. Naomi, you had sent me a video with Andre talking about the project. When I saw that, I could not believe how amazing the idea was. So when I went to meet both Nabil and Andre, actually, and right up to the day of the launch, which we'll talk about shortly, I realised actually they didn't need any help. They were so mature, they had it sorted. The things that they said, you know, if I'd gone Facebook Live, you would see that tears are just coming out of my eyes, because I am so moved by their sheer tenacity and how they moved this project forward. And we're talking about changing the narrative, and I want to say that you 3 are changing the narrative in an unbelievable way. So Naomi, you said let's get them together.
Yes.
What next?
They set up a meeting. I believe Nabil contacted Andre, or I gave Andre Nabil's number.
Yeah.
I don't know which way around
You
who
said you
contacted
did
who,
both.
but
That there was a
they made it
connection.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they started their set of meetings and process through with the writing sessions.
Okay, so Nabil and Andre, back to you now. You've both met. You've had a conversation. How did you then come up with the idea or agree on the idea to do a similar project to, or the same really, as what you'd done in St. Raffles?
So I'll let Andre talk on how I managed to convince him. But I shouted him and I told him, let's meet in Box Park, Wembley. So I meet him, and bear in mind I've never done this before. I'm not very outgoing and confident as I may seem. So I was pretty nervous. I never met this guy before. I was low key a fan, so I didn't want to come across weird. And I was like, okay, I was just thinking of ways of how can I convince this guy to run the same book on my estate. And I can only speak on my personal motivations behind it. Every single time Chalkhill was brought up in the media, we're never really praised. We're always they always like to slag us off, and they always like to paint us in a very negative light. And I've been on the estate for near 18 years now. It's an understatement to say I love everybody on the estate. That's my community. Just as much of the authors, we definitely recognize that it takes a village to raise a child, and in my opinion, my village is the best one in Northwest London. So it's a very biased statement. I'm pretty sure Andre
Just a little bit biased.
is a little bit biased.
Andres is just a little bit.
But yeah, so I think my journey is a little bit different, whereby I went to Capital City Academy, and then after Capital City Academy I went to a college in Harrow, and the contrast in the demographic in those two educational institutions, it's miles apart. So I could relate with individuals from my secondary school, and the second we went to the neighbouring borough, it was very, very different. And even following that, when I went to university, it was also very, very different. One thing I would say is I felt a massive stigma being where I was from. So because people had this perception of me, which was built off the media attention that is attached to where we're from, be it Northwest London or specifically Chalkhill Estate. So I found myself battling with people's perceptions of me, and this is where we're talking about changing the narrative, because it's I'm gonna steal your bar, but it's those who rule. It's those who write or those who rule. And that was written in the first book, and it resonated with me the most, because the decision makers in this country are writers, be it novelists who can influence culture, or be it policymakers who influence policy. They write. Everything ultimately comes down to words. And I want my vision is to help my specific community get their words down on a piece of paper, and that falls under Northwest London as well, because we need to take power in house now.
I like that. So let's go back to Andre. Thank you, Nabil. That was an amazing explanation. And in a short synopsis, you gave us a real insight to what education was like for you going to the different establishment. So I'm going to come back now to what is now my favourite establishment, Freedom and Balance. And I'm going to ask the headmaster now to tell us about this latest project, Authors of the Estate.
Yeah. You know what, I kind of want to go back to it, like, it's a long story, but there's a lot of good information in it. That, like, before I met Nabil, I had a whole plan of what I wanted to do this year. And I had multiple curriculums that I wanted to kind of, like, establish to say, like, this is what Freedom and Balance is, this is how a curriculum works. Now, Nabil came and said his story, and to me, it was, I said yes straight away, more because I know that, like, my thing is I don't really care about the outside opinion more than I care about the inside opinion. And even though with the first book, gave it to all 1,000 homes in St. Raffles Estate, people responded to it, but no one really gave the story that I was expecting the book to create. And then when the bill spoke, I was like, cool, like that's what I wanted to hear, basically. So I was like, I can't say no now to what
Nice.
you've just said. So I had to cancel all the plans. So I had to go back to the team because we have a faculty, Abdu and Andriana. I said, like, we have to put everything on hold and we have to work on this. Now, fortunately, I was asked to go to Ethiopia. So I met Nabil. Then in between me meeting him the second time, I went to Ethiopia. And during this time, I'm still trying to figure out how the college works. But I gave myself a little research project while I was there, which is I want to speak to the creatives who weren't in Ethiopia. And that visit there really changed my perspective on creativity and communal creativity, because when I was there, I realized that authors of the estate can't really work there. Like, reading is not necessarily the main form of taking in information in Ethiopia. It's maybe audio or something else. What do you mean you printed 1,000 books? Like, printing is just different over there anyway.
Sure, yeah.
You print one book that's black and white, it's coming out black and purple, like, it's just all over the place.
They couldn't comprehend the magnitude.
The consistency is different. And also as well, what do you mean you designed it on Photoshop? Because some of my good friends have to crack, like, Photoshop because it's not available in some places in Africa. So there's so much invisible infrastructure that we have available to us that we don't really pay attention to. So when someone talks about being creative, they talk about, like, I'm just gonna make the book. So then when I came back, I changed the whole thing, because before I was like, yeah, cool, let's do another book like we did last time. But I was like, no, Counterhouse, the publishing house, because it's not just about making the book. It's not really about the book. It's about how can you create a system where people know how to continually make books. And not even just make books, but how to continually create. I think Authors of the Estate is important is because the only time when our story is told, and I mean our story in terms of, like, to people who are from Northwest London, is when relationships go horribly wrong. That's the only time when it gets documented. Like, someone got stabbed, someone got robbed, someone got shot. Like, these kids probably went to school together, probably kicked ball together, but something went wrong, and then that happens. And that's the only time when we're noticed. So you don't see any of the other relationships. You don't see, like, how I love my mum, or you don't see, like the aunties, like talking to the uncles and how they have banter between themselves. You don't see that. So that's never documented. So then the moment I say, for example, I'm a black filmmaker, you're like, oh, you probably talk about, like, how people get shot or stabbed, or it's like, you're talking about the very extreme of 1,000 different types of relationships that you see in the estate, and often those are based on 15 people in an estate. There's 1,000 homes in St. Raff's, and you're probably focusing on, and Chalkhill, probably focus on the 15 people they were just going to be on that anyway.
And what's so important, Andre, actually, is the age of most of the authors, is the age of yourself, Nabil and Naomi, because actually most of those stories are about people of your age, and so it is fitting that you should be the ones to change the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, again, you
Absolutely.
only need 50. You only need 15 people. We have 22. Like, you don't need a lot of people for example, for a lot of people, their first mention of Chalkhill is the fact that there's authors there, and I think it's the same with St. Raffles Estate. I went to Ethiopia to talk about St. Raffles Estate. They didn't even need to know about all of the stories that people know about St. Raffles Estate. Like, their first mention is, oh, there's authors there, and it's simply because we said so. We have the same infrastructure and the same technology that any of the biggest companies in the world have access to. Like, some of the biggest companies who have, like, millions and millions of pounds still don't know how to use Instagram. They still don't know how to, like, run a podcast properly. Like, it's all very equal playing field, but but we still believe that there's this hierarchy. And this year in particular has been me reading the boring textbooks about how the entertainment industry works and how the art industry works. They're very boring textbooks, but we can make this out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
So Andre, so how many authors?
22.
22 authors. And how many weeks did you turn this project around?
Technically 12.
12 weeks.
Technically.
12.
Brilliant. Well done.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Because the 12th week was when?
The 12th week was last week, the launch.
It was last week, and it was the launch.
So hang on, we're talking from week 1 to week 12,
Yeah.
getting 21 authors
Yep.
together
Yep.
and
22.
Yeah.
Wicked.
So like,
And promo. Let's not
yeah, everything
Everything,
was
that's what I'm
12
saying,
weeks.
12 weeks.
That's why I said
Yeah.
technically, because if you're speaking about the writing part, it took 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about the actual from people hearing about it to the first time,
Yeah.
to us launching a book and a whole of Getty Images packed with people, that's 12 weeks.
Yeah.
When Andre
Fantastic.
says Getty Images was packed with people, he's not even talking about the people that were packed outside.
Yeah.
Because there was a gazebo outside, and there were people outside. I heard also that people were walking past and saying, "Oh, what's going on in there?" And then they were also stopping.
Yeah.
So what did you make of the launch?
I loved it, man. I think I'll be very honest. I expected it. So normally it's like, oh, I didn't expect so much people to come.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, because why would you work so hard for 5 people to be there? Like we had a whole banner, so the whole of Chalkhill saw a banner with everyone's faces. We had like tons and tons of videos. We had pictures upon pictures. Like we've told everybody like this is what we expected, and we done it because it deserves that attention. Like it deserves for everybody to know. Like it's important.
What a fantastic mindset. I know that our guest that we've got coming up shortly, I know that she will be inspired by that mindset, because it's all about believing, having faith, and you've put it out there, so you're quite right. Why should you have the limited belief that it would be anything other than absolutely packed? When I say packed, it was literally packed to the rafters. It was packed to the rafters.
I did. I saw some of the videos and I was like, wow, that looks like a serious launch. But some of the questions I would like to ask you, well, due to the fact that, as you know, a lot of the youngsters are getting really bad press, as you said, when it comes to knife crime and everything else, because people seem to think that's all youngsters can do.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up as a youngster myself, we had a lot more stuff going on. Yeah, we had community centres was open left, right, centre. You can leave from one borough, go to the next one, just to go to a community
Yeah.
centre. And as you know, nowadays with austerity and everything else, a lot of that has been taken away. But what the project that you're doing, or what you've done and achieved, are you guys thinking of like trying to inspire other boroughs or other people in other boroughs to do something similar of what you've done?
Yeah, I mean, as far as what's within our responsibility,
Yeah.
we've covered our responsibility, which is to show that it's possible.
Yeah.
We have a physical book, and we have 22 authors in Chalkhill to say that this is possible. We are so open to do it in other places. We're not going to put it up on ourselves to save the whole of London. Do you know
No,
what I
we
mean?
can't. Definitely not.
And it's
Definitely
the same.
not.
It's the same thing. Like the reason why we did Chalkhill is because Nabil asked. It was 4 years in between me doing St. Raf's, because to me St. Raf's, I was like, okay, it's done. I've done it for my area. I think that we document everything we've done. Like the reason why that camera's there, and the reason why I'm trying to document everything is so that people who are watching see the steps, and they see the day-to-day progress. Like literally down to me opening up the box for the first time to see the books. I filmed that
Yeah,
just to be
of course.
like, this
That was
is
so
what it looks
powerful.
like. Thank you.
It was very powerful.
Thank you. But the important thing is that because we don't see things, we will see a book, and it's so funny because a lot of people are like, oh, like, you know, because I was saying how tired I am. Like I'm very tired. It's very tiring. And I was like, oh, it's only been out for a week. It's like, huh? I've been on this non-stop, and not only has it been 3 months to non-stop, but also as well building the college to even get to that way of thinking has been the whole year.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of work, and to do that for every estate it's not that it's not possible. It's definitely possible, but I think the most important thing that we have that's in our responsibility is to show how we've done it here. So if somebody wants to move on something immediately, they can. But if I'm honest with you, the next place that I want to work on is Stonebridge.
I get that, and also I do understand the fact that for anyone else to want to do it for their borough, but what I'm trying to look at is the fact that you guys have got to give them the inspiration.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you got your inspiration from somewhere to start doing what you're doing.
Yeah, this is the inspiration.
As I said, you don't have to, as you said, you don't have to go around to promote it. You got social media.
Yeah.
You know, you can stay in your house and promote something nowadays.
Yeah.
You know, but it would be nice to see that other boroughs pick it up.
Oh, 100%.
So I suppose if you guys do like a YouTube video or whatever, you know what I mean, just show people we're not all about gangs and violence.
No.
Yeah, definitely not. And it's like you said as well about, you know, showing the good side of families, which is something that's lacking as well. And that's something we kind of mentioned for Black History Month, that we need to come together and do something to show that there are people out there doing good for the community.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a whole. This is how far we go in terms of like showing what's possible, right? We've got two very important things in that book. One of them is we have a chapter that says how to build a publishing house in your neighborhood. So it's a to-do list. So literally everything that we've done with this project, we made it a to-do list and then put it into the book. So the keys are almost there. That's like free. That's free game basically.
You got the foundation.
The foundation is there.
The whole of the foundation is there. Yeah.
And then not only that, we have at the back of the book we have something called the game plan, which basically talks about if we were to continually do the same thing within Chalkhill, this is what phase 1 looks like. This is what phase 2 looks like. This is what phase 3 looks like. And phase 3 basically ends up getting to a point where Chalkhillian speak is recognizable globally. So like someone in Japan is like in a writer's room and they're writing something, it's like, oh, that's really Chalkhillian of you to like put that sentence in there because it's a recognizable style.
Right.
So like not only have we put the blueprint of what we've already done, but the blueprint of what we're trying to do is all in the book.
So Andre, can you tell us how the book sales have been going?
Book sold out.
Book sold out.
First week.
Book
It's not even a week yet.
out.
Yeah, it's not even a week yet.
Congratulations.
So thank you. Yeah, everyone showed a lot of support, and like Nathaniel Telemack bought 25 books. It was ridiculous, but the thing that's important is for everyone to know that book sales are definitely important for us because this is self-funded. This came out of our pockets. We didn't apply for funding, even though we could apply for funding. We didn't apply for funding for this project, and that basically means that every time someone buys a book, we're getting reprints next week, but every time someone buys a book, you are increasing the likelihood of this happening again. I think again showing the process, and the process is the prize, is very important because if you don't show that, hold on, this costs money, you know, books don't just come out. Like it costs money. Number one, for the amount of photography that's in there to get the things edited, all of that is value, and we could be writing application forms for the rest of our lives, but Andre Anderson doesn't want to like be writing application forms.
Anderson, the headmaster.
I don't want to be doing that for the rest of my life. I would rather think about, okay, how do you create a system so it pays for itself? So even though that's available, we're trying to do something new. So the project has paid for itself within the first day. Within that launch day, it paid for itself. And now I think if we were to do it on our budget, which is we were basically working for free. So if we were to do it on our budget, we could do it one more time. But yeah, we can't do it on our budget next time. That was straight from the heart.
Well, listen, this has been the Let's Talk Show's interview with the amazing Freedom and Balance, Andre Anderson, Headmaster, Nabil, and of course the amazing Naomi. So before you go, guys, just a bit of fun. Let's start with Nabil. Nabil,
Yes.
if you were going to be stuck in a lift for an hour, who would you want to be stuck in a lift with and why?
Ooh. Dead or alive?
Dead or alive?
I would want to be stuck in a lift with Tupac Shakur,
Why is that?
just to soak up as much of his energy as possible. I went through, I think when I was 17, 18, 19, I would just watch all of his interviews. I bought any book that had his name on it. He was a massive role model to me. For me. purely because he was a revolutionary, but he was also human. That man had so many flaws, and he wore his heart on his sleeve, and when he died, he was very much loved, and God willing, when I die, I would like to leave that same energy behind.
Okay, so stuck in the lift with two back. Naomi, very quickly over to you. If you were going to be stuck in the lift for an hour, who would you like to be stuck with and why?
Oh, that's a very hard question. I'm going to say my niece. She is only 18 months, but she brings the most joy when I look at her, regardless of what I've been through, been a bad day or whatever. She brings me the most joy, and she is so smart, and I can learn a lot from her. And yeah, kids are beautiful. They bring the most joy, and yeah, it's a pleasure that she's in my life.
I love that. And I know she's cute also, so I know what you're talking about. Yeah, she's amazing. I love that answer. So back to the headmaster. Final words, if you were going to be stuck in the lift, who would it be with?
Actually wild, but I would love to be stuck in the lift with Jesus.
Oh,
Yeah.
tell us why.
But that's what I'm saying. But it's wild because like if it's him as God, then it's peak to be stuck in like it'd be peak to be stuck in a room with you for an hour. But then even if it's just historical Jesus, the fact that I said his name and everyone knows what I'm talking about, but when you research him historically, he's very poor, comes from practically nowhere. Everyone's like what good thing comes out of Nazareth, innit? Like his area wasn't a nice area, but yet he laid down principles that people still carry out to this day.
Yes.
I'm like, I just want to, even whether it's God Jesus or historical Jesus, I just want to have that conversation because the story is too strong.
Listen, you guys have been absolutely amazing. It has been a real treat spending some more time with you. So where can people get the book once it comes out?
Yeah, so we're sold out, come back, but like when we restock, which would be next week, late next week, if you go to freedomandbalance.com/shop, and then you could buy both the St. Raphael's Estate, Authors of the Estate, and also the Chalkhill edition as well.
Brilliant. I have to say, it has been an amazing experience being part of the Freedom and Balance College and being an author. You've made me into an author. You've given me that opportunity.
You've already been an author. You was
Fantastic.
always an author.
I just didn't do it. So you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
made me do it. So I like that. I really appreciate that. Because now, guess what? I can add to my Instagram, radio presenter and author. So I'm very excited.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. But I would like you listeners now to stay tuned in. We have got an amazing guest coming up for you. You're going to have some great information, some tips, and some things to think about. But before that, let's take a bit of break.